Hello, 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 and welcome back to A Little Birdie Told You. I'm your host, Kristen Knight.
And I'm your host, Kelly Knight.
And today we're going to be talking about first dates. I'm sure many of you have had a first date or going to have a first date, or maybe there's a new significant other in your life, or not even a significant other, I should say, because I feel like it's not a first date if it's a significant other, but maybe you're just talking to somebody and you guys are going to go on a first date soon. And maybe you're familiar with them, but you want to do it the right way. So me and Kelly are going to give you some pointers on a first date, how to act, maybe some things to do, where's the best first date locations, and kind of our opinions on first dates. So let's talk about how to act on a first date.
I would say completely be yourself. Like, I wouldn't sit there like most people think, oh, I have to like do this whole front and everything and like sit there and like say stuff or maybe even wear things that they normally don't wear. And like there's nothing wrong with that to look nice, but also like I would dress more like
Conservative.
like more like casual, like more like, you know, like you, but like more like, you know, like a nicer you know what I'm saying? Like something you would still wear. But a lot of people, like, I feel like sit there and like maybe like more like try to like dress up themselves and sit there and be like, oh yeah, like I do this and this and this, when really you don't, just to sit there and like act like maybe, you know, you're like really cool or whatever, when really like that's not even you. Because if you're going on a first date with somebody, you want to show them like, you know, who you really are as a person, not sit there and like fake anything or like lie anything. Because I mean, nobody's going to want to date you if you're sitting there lying.
Full authenticity is important here. Be yourself. If they don't like who you are, then they're not the right person. At least they get to figure that out on the first date, right? Present yourself as you already are. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Because
like, don't sit there and like overthink it and feel like you have to put so like, I wouldn't say so much, but sit there and get so like overwhelmed with it and sit there and get like all this anxiety over just going on a date with somebody when really, I mean, they're probably nervous too, but like just act how you normally act. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't like act crazy or something, but like, you know, like act like yourself.
And it's nervous to be, you know, it's nervous to be normal. Okay, well, I mean, it's normal to be nervous. It's normal to be nervous, but you also don't want to sugarcoat who you really are.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go, think about this. Think, okay, I'm going to go on a first date with somebody. Do you want them to sugarcoat who they are to you?
No,
and make you believe something that they're not?
Like, that's like putting like a whole new person in front of you.
Yeah, it's
and
like a false identity. You're going on a date with somebody who's not going to be the same person they are 3 dates or 5 dates from now. Or maybe if you get in a relationship, you're going to say, you're not the same person that I initially went on a date with. Who are you? Who's this person? So just be yourself. I think that's kind of harder, you know, maybe done than said, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to be myself, and then they're not. Another one I would say, this kind of is the same with faking. Don't make up things about yourself that aren't true.
Yeah.
Or act like you're into their interest and you're not. If they mention an interest, oh, I actually love to.
Like if they're like, oh, I love football. Oh my God, me too. Like I love football. And then really you like hate football or something. Like act like yourself. Don't sit there and fake things that you're not, because that's just wrong. Because that's basically going on a date and sitting there being like, dang, I really liked that person. And then they go home, dang, I really just lied about everything I just said. And you weren't even like any of that person.
And not even for them, but for yourself. Because if you're sitting here and you're agreeing to interests they have, then you guys might actually not be compatible at all. And you might save your time and find someone who's more compatible.
The whole point of like a first date is to get like, to know like a little bit of them. Obviously you're not going to know fully somebody like on the first date. I mean, that's pretty much obvious. Like that's why there's like multiple dates. I mean, even when you do start dating somebody, I wouldn't say you get to like fully know them. You know what I'm saying? Because like you don't really get to fully know anybody until like you've been dating them for a while. You know what I'm saying? Because you get comfortable as time goes on. So like obviously you might not be like completely like compatible with that person, but it takes time. You know what I'm saying?
And I will say, this is definitely a nice tip for anyone. Don't reveal everything about yourself initially. Allow them to work for that.
And
be
like
a little mysterious.
Gradually open it up.
Be a little mysterious. People like mystery. If you reveal everything in one sitting, there's nothing left to learn about you. So say, you know, I'm going to allow this to take its course, take its time. I'm going to sit with them or do whatever activity you're doing if you're going to go somewhere, and enjoy that time. Don't sit there and rush the process of it, and allow them to get to know you and ask questions, and do the same. Ask questions about them, or just enjoy the moment and not really ask much, because the first date could lead to many others. You might not realize what you want or what you're doing. And I don't know what your intentions are with them, but don't just reveal everything, because I think some of us tend to get nervous and reveal everything about ourselves when we don't need to do that. Another thing on a first date, this is a big one, pertaining to revealing yourself, right? Do not talk about your previous relationships if you have them. Do not talk about that. Nobody wants to hear about your ex. Nobody wants to hear about
especially
the things
if
they
you're somebody
did.
that talks like really bad about like the last person you were in a like relationship with. Like, I personally would not date somebody if they talked really bad about the last person they dated, because that means if something goes wrong with you guys, that they're going to talk really bad about you. And that's not like a good way to start something off with somebody, because they're going to be like, ooh.
Well, and not only that, it's the initial beginning of something. You know, it's the beginning of a possible relationship, or maybe it's just like kind of a little fling.
I honestly don't think you should even bring up like any of your past relationship stuff unless somebody brings it up to you in like a conversation and like you feel comfortable enough to bring it up, you know? I mean, maybe you don't have to say everything what happened, but, you know, at least tell them who that person was and stuff. And like maybe the last time, like if you guys hanged out or something, like, or if you are still in contact with them so they feel comfortable. But like, I wouldn't sit there and like bring it up right away and relate like in your relationship. Like, I would wait like at least like 2 months before you bring that up, or maybe even like more, just because if it's not like that serious yet, you know, I wouldn't sit there and be like, oh yeah, so this was my ex or whatever. You know, I would just like kind of like let it be until like he or she brings it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not a thing you bring up initially.
Because it's nothing, like, I'm not saying it like doesn't involve you guys, but like that was like you and that person in the past. That doesn't have anything to do, if, you know, bad things happened in the past with that person, that does not even like involve with the person you're talking to in front of you. You know
Exactly. And another thing is that's like a kind of a talk you have when you're in a relationship, or, you know, like progressively getting to know the person.
Yeah. And then you both bring it up to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe, okay, so did you have any relationships before me? But don't just randomly sit there and say, so I had this ex, me and this ex did this and this and this, and he treated me this way or she treated me this way. That's a very negative situation, and it's not something you want to just bring up when you're trying to have a nice date or begin a journey with someone else, or even just talk to someone else and get to know someone else. Don't bring that up. Just don't bring up the past or any. I would kind of keep it very light, to be honest, for the conversation on a first date, because there's no determinant that you're going to stay with this person and continue dating them.
It's almost like I wouldn't sit there and get wrapped up in it, because that's almost like being friends with somebody for so long and like all of a sudden you're going on a date with them. That might be a lot more comfortable. What I'm saying is like, look at them like as a friend first. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, like, is this somebody that I could like feel comfortable with, like, you know, like talking to, or like sitting here, like having like dinner with or something, or just watching a movie, like all of that, instead of like sitting there being like, oh my God, like, am I going to marry this person? Like, there's no like jumping like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't jump to conclusions. You're right. Go about it as a friend. That's actually really good advice there.
Like, I would just look at it and be like, okay, is this somebody I could like sit down and feel comfortable enough talking to, like if I had a really bad day or something. You know what I'm saying?
Treat him more
Not
as a
somebody
friend.
is being like, oh my God, like, is this person going to be like a good husband or a good wife one day? Like, sure, that's things that are like long down the road, but like, you know, like, are they actually going to sit there and be somebody that's going to like want to talk to you and like at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying?
Especially when you're young. It's a good way to kind of introduce someone into your life. If it is a date and that happens to be the first thing that you guys decide to do together, maybe they could be a better friend than a partner. And you might realize that.
Sorry, another thing I was going to say is like, keep the conversations very light. Nothing like where it's like very emotional or something. Like, I'm going to sit there and get that person being like, oh gosh, where like all of a sudden you start crying or something. Like, I don't know, maybe you're a very emotional person. Keep it very light, and where it's like easy questions to answer, and they don't have to sit there and like be like, oh gosh, like I was not prepared for somebody to ask me this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't sit there and like, if they don't like, if you ask them maybe about their family, they don't say much, I wouldn't sit there and like question it. You know, some people have like family issues or something and they don't want to bring it up, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously not everybody's going to feel comfortable with talking about like certain topics, but like keep everything very light. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, like, you know, like this or that. Like, I wouldn't
allow
sit
the
there
conversation
and, like,
to just
flow how it's supposed to.
A natural flow. And even if it's not a conversation, just allow the body language to flow, or allow yourself to just, you know, some people don't like first dates where it's sitting down or it's dinner. They like things more
like fun, like golf or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they like to do maybe something a little bit more, with their body for fun, walking or things like that, and just allow things to just kind of happen and be fun. I think definitely having some fun energy to a first date will make that person interested, but allow you to feel more interested, allow that person to come out of their shell. There's a lot of anxiousness when it comes to first dates for a lot of people. You don't know how that person's going to perceive you, and allow them to perceive you how they want to, because it's then going to reduce your options. It's going to allow you to kind of decipher what do you like out of a person and what do you want. And if that person's not right for you, then you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to waste my time.
Or they could be a really good friend.
They could be a really good friend. You might make a really nice friend.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, even if you go on a date with somebody, maybe it doesn't end out the way you thought it was going to end out. Maybe they could be a really good friend. You never know. I mean, unless you live really, really far from each other, that might be a different story. You could still be long distance friends, but you know what I'm saying is, like, go about it as, like, I wouldn't say look at them like, oh, like, I see them as a friend, but almost like look at them and be like, okay, would I want to date this person, or is this somebody that I'd rather like be like more on a friendship level with?
And I would definitely also say being open. Being very open-minded to things. Allow yourself to get to know them. Do not make, like we were saying, conclusions. Don't jump to conclusions just by the looks of somebody or something they said. Just allow yourself to get to know somebody, because I do think sometimes people have actions or a background that you don't understand quite yet until you start listening and understanding them. Because you can find out at the end, okay, I like them better as a friend. But some people think they like someone as a friend, and then a couple months go by and they realize, oh, I actually like this person a little bit more.
Said, like, it just takes time to like sit there and know somebody, and it might not be like, oh yeah, we went on a first date and now we're dating. It might take some time to get to know somebody.
And another thing is I think people look for that instant connection.
Like, oh my God, love at first sight. Like, I believe in that. Like, like the universe keeps throwing you at somebody for a reason. But like,
I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of the best relationships are not an instant gratification. You don't look at them as, oh, this is love at first sight, or a like at first sight. This is romantic.
Honestly, sometimes you look at them and you're like, oh God, I don't want to talk to that person. That person's like...
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
It tends to be that way. And that's why I say be open-minded to the possibilities. Because I think if you automatically close off, you could actually be removing yourself from a very pleasurable and amazing opportunity with somebody, to have a very nice relationship with somebody. But I think some of us look for that instant, there's no connection here, I'm done. No instant chemistry. Friendships actually end up being the best relationships.
Something like, okay, no offense with this, people that are like, oh, like our zodiacs don't match. Okay, I believe in all that, but like not that though. We're like, oh, your zodiacs don't match. I don't even focus on that voo doo stuff. Well, not like that, but like, you don't know unless you try. You know what I'm saying? You always should try and see if, even just as a friendship or something. Don't sit there and be like, oh, well, you're a Taurus. I don't like that. Like, we don't connect right. Like,
don't jump to conclusions.
Don't act like that.
You know what? If someone said that to me on a first date, I probably wouldn't continue. I'd say, okay. That's I've heard enough.
Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't match.
But you know what? Some people are very passionate about that. And I believe you do you. If that's something that you're very passionate about and your zodiacs have to match and that's what you truly believe in, great. That's awesome. Some people aren't going to be for that. So that's why I said, be yourself. Because if you act that way in a first date, if someone did that to you, you would probably say, this isn't the person for me. But they might find somebody who is that way, that is the person for them. Be yourself. I think we're too scared, and that's the problem. Just be you. If you love to wear a certain color and you're like, I'm going to change that because they said they actually don't like that color, that's not going to be the person for you then. You need to be yourself, because that right person is going to admire who you are. As I said before, I said this in a video, if you are a rock and mineral collector and you're afraid to say that because you're afraid of the other person's perception of you, just be yourself.
Don't lie about the hobbies you do and like what you like doing like in your free time or for fun. Just be honest. I mean, there's no sense in lying if you're going to be really dating that person in the future.
Yeah, and like I said, that's going to give them,
because you never know. Maybe they like collecting rocks too.
Yeah, that's going to give them the opportunity to express how they believe on that. And they might actually think that's really interesting. It actually might make them like you even more. And it's not about them liking you more or how they perceive you. It's about you just being comfortable to be yourself. And I think the right person kind of makes you feel comfortable with being yourself. But as you said, on the first date, I would look at it as more as a friendship. I wouldn't go on it because super romantically.
You're both going to be very nervous, and you're probably both going to be like, how do I say this? Maybe like both like kind of like
apprehensive.
I don't know about
revealing
this,
things, you know.
What's like some date ideas that you would think like are like good
for a first date? I know a lot of people say this, and I definitely 100% agree, is movies are not the right way to go.
One thing about a date is you want something that, like, you both can, like, just, like, be free and have fun with, but also, like, if you want, ask questions. You know what I'm saying?
And don't get me wrong. I think if you both really have a passion for watching movies, that's great. But I do think the first date should be something that reveals a little bit about yourself where you're able to have a conversation. I think conversations are key here. Communication's key.
If there's a date idea you have, but you have, like, if you can get quiet very easily, like a movie, I don't know if that's a good idea, because you can go, like, for a long time without talking. And I feel like at that point, you're both just going to get very, like, awkward and nervous to even say, like, both of you are going to be like, no, I'm not saying anything first. They can say something first. And then you both never say anything. And then it just doesn't end well.
The movies are a better date when you're in a relationship and you have established a connection with that
person. Or maybe
person.
if you guys are, like, friends or something.
Yeah, that too. That's a good way.
It depends on, like, the first dynamic you guys met or something. But if this is, like, the first time, like, you've, like, for instance, somebody came up to you and they asked for your number or something, and, like, you want to go on a date with them, I would not choose that.
Or you've been texting them a little bit back and forth, and they say, oh, I want to take you out. You go to a movies. If you're friends with the person for a while, and then you guys decide, oh, we're going to go on a date together. We look at each other romantically, and you already know of each other. You know a lot about each other. A movies is a good way to go. But you don't have any background knowledge of the person. You don't know their favorite food, you know, maybe their favorite movie. Then you shouldn't be taken to the movies if you don't know their favorite movie. You know what I mean? So you get where I'm coming from. I would say, though, a great first date, if you don't really know the person and you don't want it to get awkward, is not something where you're sitting. Something where there's an activity involved.
Yeah, like, a lot of people go to, like, what is it, like, you know, like the golf, like, I forget what they are, but, like, the little golf places that you,
putt-putt golf?
Yeah, like that. Maybe, like, an arcade or something.
Something fun and light.
Maybe, like, honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say it with, like, Sky Zone or something, because I feel like that would be fun.
And I actually think, even if you're older, and I know some of these people, I'm like, oh, what if you're 30 and you're like, I don't play.
I feel like sometimes, like, younger version of you, like, the things that you like to do when you were younger,
is the best version of you.
Is the best version of you, because it brings out, like, you feel more comfortable when you're like, oh my gosh, like, I remember doing this when I was younger. And then you both are probably just going to start laughing and feel a lot more comfortable.
Exactly. It's going to be a comfort
Keeping
zone.
things light and where you're laughing or, like, just having fun, you're going to feel a lot more, like, easy to flow a conversation. Now, if you're sitting there and you're both, like, kind of, like, all of a sudden you're, like, maybe at a dinner, I mean,
it could get awkward very quickly.
It could get awkward. They could be like, I'm a vegetarian. I do not like meat. And you could be looking at them like, oh, I'm eating, like, chicken right now. Like, and then you're just going to get awkward.
Well, not only that, but something that doesn't cost a lot. You don't want to be spending a large quantity on things when you're going out, especially if they offer to pay. I think it's definitely something where you need to say, let's do something very reasonable, something
like another
light.
thing is you could just go on a walk at a park or something and just sit there, and maybe you guys want to get, like, lunch or something. You could, like, sit at a picnic table and talk or something.
Definitely do something where an activity's involved, because if it gets quiet and awkward, you have something else you can continue to do to make the conversation begin to kind of boil up or ease
Another
again.
one's, like, maybe fishing, like a fishing date or something.
Whatever you guys are interested in. I think it depends on your interests too.
You could do if you play a sport and you both play the same sport, you guys could just, like, I don't know, like, go play soccer or, like, basketball or something. Like, there's a bunch of different types of dates you guys
Another
could do.
thing is it depends on the season, but you could go ice skating. You could maybe, if it's, I know fall's coming up, you could go to a pumpkin patch.
Yeah, there's
a lot
some
of those things are really nice to do. You could go to, I know some people are very creative. I guarantee you there's art studios or craft studios, painting, sculpting, those types of things. I know some people like to just get coffee and sit in a cafe and go on a walk.
Maybe if you have, like, a downtown area by you guys could go, like,
or maybe, city. If you live in a city.
Like, I mean, I don't know if this would be, like, a great idea, but, like, it came to my mind, like, a mall date or something where you guys could both, like, go around and, like, walk around and look at stuff or something.
Yeah, definitely anything where it's not, you have to kind of think of who the person is, what the dynamic is, and do I know them well enough to take them somewhere where we're not going to talk much? If
Another one's, like,
don't,
bowling.
then yeah, like something like that. If you're bowling, you could talk to them and bowl at the same time. Then if the conversation gets dull, you have something to continue doing. And then you kind of learn about how they act as well when they do those things. When they play games, or maybe when they experience different things, how do they act? What are their little quirks, and get to know a little bit about them. And that reveals a lot. But definitely, I know a lot of people say the movies are not the best way to go. It's just not. It's something I feel like you have to be more comfortable with. And I think it's something kind of or you need to know the person a little more and have some
Another one
background
I was gonna
knowledge.
say is like if you have like amusement park by you,
That's a
you
good
could
one.
always go there or something, or maybe if you have like, you know, like I don't know, there's like a Halloween thing going on at the amusement park, you could always go there, because like I honestly never even thought about that. If you both live like close by or something, or you guys want to go there, then that might be a good idea.
Activities I think that you could do with a friend. Because as you said, the first date should be kind of a friendly occurrence. Think of things you could do as a friend. Like you said, playing a sport, doing things like that.
Do
Keep
things
it
where
friendly
like
based.
it's like, even maybe if you're not great at the sport but they are, I wouldn't sit there and really worry too much, because I mean,
Definitely not something someone can get too physical to. I don't think it's a great idea to get physical on a date, like hold hands or things. I think you should just wait a little bit because make sure this is something. I don't think it's good to play games with someone.
I also wouldn't sit there and like all of a sudden jump in and just sit there and like be all like, oh yeah, I want to like hold hands with this person or something, and at the end of the date you're like, oh, this is not the right person for me, and you sat there and did all that, and like that person might really start to like you. I would keep it all like cool until like, you know, like maybe like
and natural.
yeah, just natural, because I wouldn't sit there and like act all like, oh my
Allow
God.
things to be really natural. That's going to be the key, is just let things flow how they're supposed to. Don't push, don't ask, just allow it to be. Just be yourself, be your presence, and allow yourself to just kind of naturally enjoy the moment. Whatever it is, if you guys aren't compatible and you realize that at the end of the date, this isn't the person for me, then at least you got to have that experience and you learned from the experience, right? I think it's important to learn from the experience overall. And just treat it as a friend. You might realize that person might be a great friend. And don't say, oh, it's my first date, we have to do this, we have to do that, make it all perfect. Just have fun with that. Because you never know, this could be your last first date. So just enjoy it. You never know. And if you're young too, it's supposed to be an experience. You know, just experience it. Do you have any other tips for first dates?
Go to karaoke.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, that's up to
I
you.
do want to say with the dressing kind of wear or how your attire on a date, I would just dress casual on a first date. I don't think anyone should make anything too luxurious because it is a first date, unless you're older.
you're like really older and you're going out to dinner or something, then maybe
And that's
a
something
different
that you
scenario,
decide to do. And just be yourself. I think ultimately being yourself is one of the prime characteristics to realize if that person's for you, or if if that person, you're for them. And you know, just being yourself and enjoying the moment.